Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip Hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business.
What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Hip Hop Now Podcast, a Hip Hop Now Podcast review where we're reviewing the third and final season of the Wu-Tang Saga, an American Saga, Wu-Tang. I know I said it all backwards and shit, but you know what I'm talking about, Jack. You see the picture and shit. And with this series of reviews, you know what I'm saying, we bring in YouTube people, actors, comedians, all kinds of folks. But I got the homie with me today. We having guest review episodes. We're going to be talking about episode 4. You know him if you're on Twitter. He do some tweets, some shit be like 15 tweets in a row. I'll be like, God damn, who Kill talking to? You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, has a podcast, Apartment 5B on YouTube. He made beats. If you haven't checked, he's on all streaming services. But most importantly, he loved the kids like old Dirty said.
There you go.
Rahman Kilpatrick, Kill AA9. What's good, man?
You went with the government, man. What's good?
Yeah, they need to know that. You know?
What's good, bro? Good to finally chop it up with you on here, man. For real.
Yeah, man. It's been good, man. And I definitely had you in mind as one of the people to bring on. And for obvious reasons, if y'all don't know, we are true blue hip hop heads. We grew up in this time. So Kill, real quick, for those who don't know you, you know, obviously you're a Wu-Tang fan, but tell me a little bit more, tell the people a little bit more about your history with Wu-Tang, first time you heard them,
right?
Liked about them and all that good stuff.
Funniest thing I remember to this day, my man Michael Jean Jocks, who was like the neighborhood bully in my hood. You know, he came to my crib one day, he's like, yo, I was out in Staten Island, they got this new crew called the Wu-Tang Clan. And the only thing I could think of, nigga, was like, you mean like the Booyah Tribe niggas? Them niggas? Booyah? He's like, nah, nigga, not the Booyah Tribe, the fucking Wu-Tang Clan. I'm like, well, I don't know what the fuck you talking about. He was like, nah, because, man, they on some kung fu shit. Da, 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 da. I'm like, all right, nigga, whatever, nigga. You say Wu-Tang Clan, I hear Booyah Tribe. And then, of course, you hear Protect Your Neck, and it's like, oh, shit. This the shit Gene Jocks was talking about. And it was like, yo, this shit is crazy. I mean, Protect Your Neck and meth, you know, just it was like what do they call them shits, like a snowball that just turned into like an avalanche. The more you just heard from them, it was just like, yo, these motherfuckers even real. Like these niggas was like,
right,
you know, all rappers have always been like superheroes to me and shit. You know what I mean? But Wu-Tang was like some real superhero Justice League, Avengers, X-Men type shit. Like,
right.
Because I've never seen nothing like that before. You know what I mean? So, and then of course, you know, you get into the Wu and everything like that, and then it just, you know, keeps marching on like that. So yeah, man, just again, one of the greatest that have ever seen that. And I'm one of the few people who I always just look at Wu-Tang as a crew. So when people say greatest group, for my definition of group, I never think of them because there's so many fucking many. They're like the Earth, Wind, and Fire of hip hop. Right. Like on this episode, we're gonna talk about Ray being like, well, who the fuck ain't in the group, nigga? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you don't gotta do that in EPMD. You know, it's 2 niggas in the group. Like, you know what I mean? But with so many of them niggas, it's like, you know, like they like the Roots. Like you do the definition of the Roots. It's been like 86 members in the Roots since them niggas started. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, so, but yeah, definitely loved the Wu, one dopest ever. You know what I mean? What
did you think when you first heard like all the kung fu references and skits and stuff?
To me, I loved it because I grew up on that shit. You know, 5 Deadly Venoms is one of my favorite movies. You know, Into the Dragon. So all those joints, Super Ninjas, all them shits was just like, you know. So I thought that was even doper. How they were just bringing together like these 2 worlds that I both loved, hip hop and karate. You know, so. Right. I thought that was the dopest shit ever too. And that was another thing with them is they were just so original. Like nobody sounded like the next man. And, you know, we're the old heads. So I'm always telling the young boys, like, you wanted to be different. That was the key point back then. You didn't want to sound like everybody else. You wanted to bring something new to the table. And I mean, Wu-Tang, I know some people talk about it, but I mean, just the fact that they were able to put an entire borough on of Staten Island, you know, that nobody ever cared about before, outside the Force MDs. You know what I mean? And with R&B, nobody really knew they were from Staten Island like that, probably unless you was from New York. You know what I mean? But they put on a borough that nobody cared about. Like Ray said, after them, it's like now all of a sudden your cousin from Shaolin. You know what I mean? Like, so again, that's a whole nother level. That's like that. Same with Heavy D. I ain't know what Money Under Mount Vernon was before Heavy D. You know, that nigga really literally put it on the map. So I think we also got to give props to people who can do something like that, that can put some place that nobody cared about for years on a, and now make it popular. I remember then King Just was out of Shaolin, like niggas was just coming out of Shaolin like left and right after Wu-Tang. You know what I mean? So
yes, it's pretty crazy. Like in the first episode or first review we did, I had Javon on, and you know, we would talk about some of the same things, right? We would talk about a lot of the same things, but definitely with the kung fu thing. And if y'all young and y'all just don't really understand why, like maybe you get it as far as their personalities and the names, but you don't get why we really loved it, because that was a thing, right? It was on television all the time. We all had our favorites. We talked about it. So to have hip hop married with kung fu in that way and show that they were fans like us, right, it just endeared them to us even more, just as fans of it all. So great point about that. Now, when they announced Wu-Tang, you know, the American Saga on Hulu, you've seen some of the cast, you watched the first 2 seasons. What did you think when you first heard about it and then you started to watch it, and what made you enjoy it enough to keep watching it?
I think for me, my first instinct was this shit gonna be whack. You know what I mean? Because I just feel like they never get these things right. You know, like I was in Orlando for business, and I'm like watching Notorious. I'm like, this shit was horrible. Like, who fucking casted Anthony? Who fucking casted the Falcon as Tupac? You know what I mean? And why is losing Isaiah fucking Little C's? Like, who the fuck casted this movie? Like, it was just horrible. And then, like, the Tupac movie, everybody know who I love Tupac, hated that All Eyes on Me. So it just seems like Hollywood just hasn't been able to get it right. But I never forget, Ev called me, he was like, bro, you gotta watch this first episode. I was like, nigga, I ain't even thinking about that. He was like, nigga, just watch the first 15 minutes. I guarantee you, my nigga, you are gonna be all in. And it was like, again, them first 15 minutes, I was like, get the fuck out of here. That shit ain't happening. You know, so now I'm on YouTube like, yo, is Ghostface, is Raekwon trying to kill Ghostface? And these niggas, now I see a video with Papa who like, yeah, Ghost and them used to shoot at each other all the time. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. So that's what really brought me in. I mean, because it was just like, yo, if these 2 niggas can get past this shit, nigga, why are we getting divorced in our marriages? Like, these 2 niggas were the fucking purple tape. Like, these 2 niggas need to write a book on how to mend a relationship. You know, so that's what got me and pulled me in. But then it was just so dope, you know, seeing all the different pieces of it and coming together, because I never really, I never read any books on Wu-Tang. Like, my co-host Porsche is like a big, you know, I'm a big bookhead too, but she's read all these Wu-Tang books. So for a lot of this stuff, she knew, but like, I didn't realize that the projects was beefing and all of that. And like RZA was in the middle, and, you know, so I just, you know, from the first ep, I was hooked, you know what I mean? You know, and then not to mention one of the things, when I do these things, bro, when you told me about the show, you know, I got a certain section in my notes that's just for love. Like, I do a low representation on every episode, because they represent lovely with the low. So, you know, the low also got me. I loved how Ray has always been rocking low since the first episode. So
right,
I'm all in with that. So yeah, that the Ghost Ray thing had me from the door. I'm like, yo, if that don't interest you, dog, I don't know if you love hip hop, because I was like, to me, there's no better way to set off a series than that. Like, I was hooked from the door. Like, you know, it's right, like the way you set off a song, like, you know. So yeah, I was hooked from the door, and that just kept me. And I just love seeing the behind the scenes of how these worlds came together.
You know what's crazy about that? When you say that, that's true, because it hooked. I mean, y'all could call us ghetto if you want, whatever. That's a compliment, okay? But I agree with you, man, because it told you this is not just your rap nostalgia.
Right.
This is life. Because you know who else did that? And I was in the movies, and I said it to my wife on the side because I was hyped in the first couple of seconds. Straight out of Compton. The minute I saw Eazy-E go into a drug bust, I was like, "Oh, this is what we doing? Okay,
right.
Okay, we gonna have him escaping." So I know exactly what you mean, man. It was a dope way to set it up. Now you're a producer.
Yeah.
The Mario Van Peebles episode where RZA was I thought about you and every producer I know. I was like, these niggas gotta love this shit because it is literally what they go through trying to find a sample and maybe they found a joint, but you gotta filter it to get it the way you want it. What did you think about that episode?
Man, 5 mics. Like literally, I think I've never been able to really explain what goes on in a producer's head when you're trying to do something. So the way that they were able to do that, like it's almost like when I first started working with kids 22 years ago, one of my people's, Jeff, this white boy was like, "Yo, Kill, no disrespect, I ain't trying to be, but how was it like growing up in the hood in Philly?" And I was like, "Let me just play you Jay-Z's Where I'm From." Like that. That's it. Like, that's literally like how it was, boosters in abundance by half price what it knew. Like, so now with this is like, yo, what goes on in your head? Just watch the episode of Wu-Tang. Like, it was that magical to be like, okay, yeah, I want that bass player, but no, I don't want your guitar. So you get out of here and, I'm going to bring the drum, but no, play a different drum break. Like, bro, that shit was like ingenious. Like literally some of the best. I don't know if it's cinema because it's not a movie. But some of the best cinematography that I've ever seen to explain like what really goes on, like you said, in our heads, because it is all of that stuff. Is do I want that kick? Do I want that kick? Do I want that snare? How do I want to program the drums? Is the sample right? Do I, like you said, do I filter the bass line out? Do I do all this? So I mean, ingenious, bro. Just crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I was just proud as a hip hop head to see this brought to television.
Right.
Because like you said, we can explain it away. I've witnessed it a million times. Shit, I've even tried it. Right. And it's a process. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it can be quick. Sometimes you're doing that for a long time and you might not even touch that beat.
Right.
Until the feeling comes back to you to go back to it.
Right.
So it's a process, man, for sure.
And let me say this, the other thing that I do love about this series, me and Naomi was watching it. So Naomi, my daughter, who's 17, I guess she was 16 or 15 when it first came out. And the dopest thing was we watched this first, and then we watched the Showtime documentary, I think it's like Mics and Men. And I thought was the dopest thing with Naomi is we watched this first, then we watched that. And I'm like, "Oh, that's Ghost." And she's like, "Who?" And she's like, "Dennis." Oh, okay. Like she knows the Wu-Tang as their real names now. So like, I have to be like, "Oh, that's Bobby." Like, okay, like I can't even be like, "That's RZA." I gotta be like, "That's Dennis." So I just thought that was like dope too. That kind of both of those things were out at the same time, so you could kind of watch this and then, double over to Showtime and kind of then see. It was just real dope for her to kind of see the actors and then be able to come back right afterwards and see like the real people who they were playing and everything. Right. So yeah.
Yeah, I will admit, man, they're doing a good job of creating characters.
Yeah,
based on for real life people. But
I don't know what's up with RZA's voice on this. My man who plays RZA, I don't know.
Oh yeah, let's talk about it. What do you feel about his performance?
I just don't get why he sounds like this. like that's the part. Like I'm like, that don't sound like RZA. So I don't know like what voice coach, what he was going for. Like, I just need to know, like, what were you going for? Like, is it the gruffy sound or what? But, he just throws me off. But everybody else I love. You know what I mean? Right. Everybody else I love, man.
It's like he's trying to breathe every time he talks.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if it's one. You know how it be. For all we know, he could be from the UK. I don't know. You know how all that is. I would never know the boy from Snowfall is from
the UK. I think he might be, yeah.
So, when I hear Franklin on Snowfall and then I hear him all, it's like Stringer than Idris. It's like,
right.
I know y'all, these accents, they got to do different things and maybe he try and talk with his mouth tight or whatever, but I just don't know how nobody on set is like, "No, bro, stop." Like, no. Like, we going like this. Somebody should stop this, like, after episode number 1. Like,
Right. Like the RZA is on set
Right,
today.
exactly, right. So I mean, he co-signed it, but and I also love just how the whole backstory of RZA start off with Prince Rakim with the "I Love You," Rakim, and the whole Genius situation and everything like that. So and then I don't know if we've ever touched on this. Have we ever talked about the book? I forgot the name of it. It's down here somewhere, but it was the story of Cold Chillin', and they were saying how when Cold Chillin' signed Genius, they were trying to make him replace Big Daddy Kane.
Yeah.
Kane had left, so it was like dark skin, high top fade. Okay, we're gonna make you the lover dude, and it was like, oh, so that's why he came with the Come Do Me or whatever that first Genius.
Right.
And it was like, oh, okay, now I get why they try to put him in that. You were trying to replace Big Daddy Kane with the Genius and shit. So.
Right. And look, since you brought it up, one thing for those watching, don't sleep. We liked Come Do Me when it came out. He was genius.
And Old Dirty was in that video, dancing.
Oh man, I gotta go back and see.
You gotta go back and see Old Dirty in the video dancing, bro.
Forgot about that. I heard about it. I don't ever think I went back and watched the video. But that's just dope. That's what's dope about them, for them to get into the industry, kind of reinvent themselves, come back with a team, like you said, represent their town in such a huge way that, they're cemented for forever with hip hop legacy. So if you're watching this and you haven't figured out already, spoiler alert, because we're going to spoil everything about this. And we're talking about episode 4, which is entitled Daytona 500. It's all about them being on a tour bus, on a tour. And I know to some people, like, well, that's boring. Well, no, it's not. You got like 900 niggas on one tour bus and all these rules and no home training. Shit just happens. So let's talk about a couple of, plot points in 2 in particular. What did you think when you saw the whole, the makings of the whole, artists? Y'all get on there like a slave ship.
Right.
Executives, there's only like 2 of us get on this other big ass bus and chill with the jacuzzis and shit.
I felt like that's like where the separation started. You know what I mean? And again, because the dope part is by us knowing the Wu story and us living through it, we know how this story ends to the most part. You know what I mean? So when you watch the Showtime documentary and you see the tension between all the Wu members and Divine, I'm looking back at it like, okay, this is where it probably started. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just like, you over there, and like you said, how you got 8 niggas on one bus and 3 niggas on the other bus? Like, we got the same size bus. Like this don't feel right. Like how the hell? Like this is totally uneven. If this was a seesaw, this ain't working out right. Like you know what I mean? So I think maybe that's where the I always talk about seeds, watering, and then the harvest. I felt like that may have been the seeds being planted in the beginning of us versus them. You know what I'm saying? And us not really being together. And then just throughout time, it gets watered. And then eventually it comes to the blow up where it's like, fuck Divine. You know what I mean? We don't trust this nigga no more. But I kind of definitely felt like that's where the seeds were planted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I was going to say the same exact thing. Like, they planted those seeds early. Because Power and Divine were all about business, selling drugs.
Right.
You could tell and running it in a lot of ways. So they were already prepared for our actual business because they had done it. They had to think about these things. Whereas, the rest of them, whether they were selling drugs or not, were more like street level dudes.
Right.
Like stick up kids, but, runners and shit like that.
Right.
So it kind of made sense. And what did you think about the whole? Because obviously, like you said, Divine and Power running the business, and several scenes, Divine is coming on the bus with these different knots of money, like here go yours, here go yours, here go yours. And then Raekwon got the shiesty eye, the sharp biter, like,
Right.
Yo, this nigga on one song.
Yeah.
Even
from the parking lot where it was like, yo, Killer coming with us? Like, even
right.
Like, said, okay, well, where that come from? And then, then the money gets into play, and it's like, this nigga getting paid the same? Like, you know what I mean?
What part was dope? Because I didn't think about it when they started talking about, well, Killer's on one song and blah, blah, blah. And Inspector Deck was like, I'm on 9 songs. And I was like, oh, shit, I forgot.
Right, like, nigga, what about me? Like, we doing it like that, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I loved how RZA kind of brought it to the crew, like, well, act Ray. You know what I mean? And Ray didn't shy down from it. It's like, look, it's my man. And I think, again, bro, one of the things that I think people will always make a mistake, and I've always tried to learn from seeing this, is like not talking about the business in the beginning. You know what I mean? And I totally get it. Like, again, these dudes is young. They're kids. You know what I mean? For the most part. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you don't know, like, yo, let's talk business. Let's do this. Let's, figure out who's going to get paid what. How does this work as a group? So you leave this space for it to be Ray saying, like, well, yo, Killer only on one song. Like, does that make you part of the group? Or like he was saying, like, yo, dog, you can't quarterback this shit by yourself. Like, we got to make these decisions, and stuff like that. But I think, like, yeah, I love that scene, man. That was classic right there. And again, I think the seeds being planted in the beginning, it was funny because I don't know if you remember, was it on, what movie was that? Was it The Show or Rhyme and Reason when Meth and You Guy was on a train?
The Show.
It was The Show.
Look, we talk about
it. All right, my bad.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
Whole time I'm sitting there with Mary, I'm saying mad shit like, oh yeah, this is the scene with I do that the whole series and shit.
Right.
But no, you're right, because I think just in general, you could tell they were like a true family. Like, you know how people say that shit, or
right?
People say that and it's not really the case. But you felt it because they were having a family discussion.
Right.
Like, look, yo, I'm doing this much work. Why does he get the same amount? Master Killer, like, fuck it, I don't want it at this point. Like, niggas want me off. But I love the fact that even though, because they've said this a million times, we argue, we fight, but we brothers. And I think that scene kind of displayed that.
Right.
Just them working together, like they're always going to be brothers no matter what happens. So I thought that was pretty dope. All right. Ghost and Shorty with the, I guess that's backyard banging. I mean, I saw an interview with her. It's not her. But now when he was going on tour, his lady said, don't go get married.
Right.
Right.
So fall in love with these groupies or whatever.
Right. She was self-aware that, there's certain things she just can't stop. But what did you think Ghost is foul for, like getting the temple massages and talking the same shit? Like,
the thing, you know what? Do I think Ghost is foul? Yes. Because you got your girl, you talking about this my earth, all that, you got your family. So yes, if you are in a committed relationship and you are dipping out, I think that's foul. Now, somebody out there watching may say, well, yo, the girl said she's cool with it. I don't know if she says she's cool with it. It's just don't go out here falling in love type thing. Right, like, that's different than it being an open relationship and it's saying, like, yo, just protect yourself or don't bring home no diseases or nothing like that. So I would have to say it's foul. I think on the other end of it, though, is like, the thing that I at least liked about the shorty was, what I liked about Ghost was even when he's laying with the shorty, he's explaining, like, who you are and who my earth is. She's like, oh, that's your girl back home. So it's not like he's on some, I ain't going to hold you. Back in my day, I would have been like, I ain't got no girl. I was the king of fucking lying. Like, and it's funny now that you older, you like, why not just tell the truth? Like, yeah, I got a girl. Like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? But I at least respected Ghost for being like, yeah, you're this, and that's, this is what my shorty is back home type thing. So I do think he's foul, but I did at least respect him for keeping it a buck and being like, I got a family back at home, whatever.
Yeah, and you know what? It was I was like, finally, like RZA or Devon is like, yo, this nigga doing this with my sister.
Right.
Like, what? Because RZA was kind of hot. He was like, well, you know, fake RZA with the fucking panic attack while he's talking.
Right.
He was like, yo, you cool with this shit? Like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, finally, because, you know, we kind of been saying it like, yo, I mean, one of the brothers is going to feel some kind of way.
Right. It was just which one? You know what I mean?
Which one? I thought the light skins would stick together, but I guess not, you know.
Yeah. The funny thing is, bro, is years later, and again, this is the wild part, since we know the ending, but didn't RZA or Go sue each other and Go sue RZA? Like later on in life?
Shit. Maybe. But
and but they brothers-in-laws. Like, that's the wild part about it. You know what I mean? So again, I think that's the other dope thing that I really enjoy about this show, because it's like you seeing the breadcrumbs. You know what I mean? To where we know it eventually, you know, kind of gets to and everything like that. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it just makes you wonder too. It's like, damn, y'all got a whole thing going on. You know, it's so much deeper than the music and what we know them.
Right.
All right, so U-God clearly does not like Method Man. Because the whole episode, he liked this nigga. Like, he's not in the group. Like, what did you think about that? And like, to what you were going to say earlier, we all know the scene from the show where he literally told Method Man to shut the fuck up.
Right. I mean, I think the wild part is, man, is we were talking about this on the show that we just did with Slack and Easton from My Type of Hype podcast. So I was saying, like, with certain people, they just have it. You know, there's nothing you can't teach it. I can teach you how to make better beats. I can teach you maybe how to rhyme better, different things like that. But when certain people just have it, and Meth just had it. You know, Meth to this day just still has it. Meth is one of the few MCs from the 90s who, when he drops the 16, it's still crazy. That 16 he dropped on Conway's Lemon was bananas. Yeah. You know what I mean? So he just has it. I remember Shorty's being in love with Meth in 94. The same Shorty's in love with Meth in 2023. Like, he just has it. And I think that's hard when... And I don't even know if you guys... Because nobody ever sees them as the weak link of the group or the last one in the group. You know, but... Maybe it's hard for you guys to be, because that's how I see you guys. I see him as, nigga, you the last in line. And we keep harming you up with the nigga who's first in line. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, because I don't know if Meth talks all the time, but yo, I'm sure an interviewer is going to want to talk to Meth more than you got. You know what I mean? So it's kind of going to be like, yo, Meth, so what you got, Meth? And what's up next, Meth? And what's up with Takao, Meth? I don't even know what the fuck you do, you guy. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't even know what to ask you type thing. You know what I mean? But I thought the shit was funny. But I just think it's that another seed of jealousy. You know what I mean? To some extent, you know, because he dropped first, because he has it, because all the women like him, because he's on Def Jam. That at that time was the shit. We saw Dirty fucking rumbling RZA because he wanted to be on Def Jam. You know, he's platinum first. It's like, this nigga got all 5 things that anybody in the clan would want. So it's kind of just like, I can see even amongst your brothers, there's a hint of jealousy. Now, to me, everything is on a scale of 1 to 10. Not saying you a 10 and you want to fucking get this nigga killed, but maybe it's a 1 or 2 that's just like, damn, man, when's my shot? Or when's my turn? Or, you know, I'm light skinned too, nigga, let me live. Like, you know, like how that pans out. So, you know, it was crazy, but I thought the shit was funny because, again, it's like, you got, nigga. Like, you got, you know, so, but yeah.
Yeah, I think some of it also was like personality clashes. Because remember, you guys straight up street dude, like straight up. Like, he don't even want to be here. He on probation.
Right.
So everything to him is hot. And remember, Method Man, he calmer now, but back then he was extra boisterous.
Right.
So I don't even think they had the interviewer didn't really have to ask him many questions. The niggas was talking. And I could see that, right? Because if your style is to be kind of low key with it and all that, and they pair you with the dude, like it's like 0 to 100. Right. They pair you with 100, but you're 0. You know what I'm saying? So it's like oil and vinegar. If you don't like that type of energy
right
around you, or maybe you have a way you think, the interview should go. But to your point, I mean, it's Method Man.
right.
He's the hottest one in the crew. He's also solo and doing numbers, collabos. You just got to play your part. Because I was thinking when they paired them together, I was like, well, that makes sense because he's the lesser known in the crew. And you put him with the brightest star, he can probably, some of it can rub off. There could be some interest. But antagonize him just wasn't going to do it because why should Method Man give a fuck about you? Like, Like
I said, dog, he got it all, And again, at this time, Meth was supposed to be next. You know what I mean? Tikal was supposed to be what Ready to Die was, what Illmatic was.
Right.
That was. So you got that, bro. I read this book once called 7 Seconds or Less about the Phoenix Suns back with Mike D'Antonio with Nash and Marion and Mark Stoudemire. And the whole book, Amari Stoudemire, I swear to God, the whole book. And they keep treating me like I'm the third best nigga on this team. I mean, not Stoudemire, I apologize. Marion. The whole book showing Marion is pouting like, man, they treat me like I'm the third best nigga on the team. Nigga, you are the third best nigga.
Right.
But in his mind, he was like, nigga, I'm the star. Like, when Nash's man blows by him, I got to help out on defense. But this the nigga 2-time MVP. And all he do is dunk. And everybody got on their jerseys. It's like, nigga, you not understand that you are the third best nigga on this team. Like, nigga, you're really saying this shit out loud. So, again, I realized through stories like that, and I get it. Maybe as fans, we see it different. Like, we can look in and say X, Y, and Z. But maybe to you guys, he's like, nigga, I'm just as nasty as Meth. And I guess in your heart of heart, you should believe that as an MC. You know what I mean? I don't know if we believed it.
Right.
But I guess you should. Like, if you are a boxer, you should not get in this ring. Like, I am the 8th best boxer in the world. I'm about to get knocked the fuck out. You are supposed to enter the ring with some type of confidence. So, at the end of the day, I guess I can't be mad at you guys. But if you're only on the album once, I mean, nigga, like.
Yeah. Well, I will say, and I mean, I almost feel like I'm lying saying it, but I'm a much bigger Yuga fan than I ever was a Master Killer fan. And Master Killer from Brooklyn.
I concur. I mean, if you had a gun in my head right now, I couldn't tell you one Master Killer verse.
Right.
At least when you got, I got the I'm gonna give it to you with no try.
Right.
I can come with you guys. Master Killer, I got you. Got me, bro, man.
Right. Like, I don't remember that.
You'd have to give me like 3 hints in a lifeline to get me a Master Killer verse out of me, man. So,
really quick before we get into the other plot points, where the hell is Capadonna?
I thought he was locked up during these times.
Yeah, I thought he was too, but okay, I guess because, you know what? Supreme Clientele, not Supreme Clientele, Only Built for Cuban Links isn't out yet.
Right.
That's when he comes aboard.
Because this is like their first tour, right? Like, this is like, so, yeah.
Album's out, the Tikal is out, and the group album is out.
Right.
But Liquid Swords isn't out yet. And
Dirty ain't out yet.
No,
Dirty is out. Right. Dirty is
out. But Purple Tape is probably next as far as what they put out since they've been building it. All right, so what do you think about the scene? Because I thought this was dope, the scene, but it was interwoven into the episode. The Wu-Wear joint, and most importantly, the dude that was bootlegging it, and he wound up hiring him.
Yeah, I thought it was dope, man, because I think now the thing is everybody has merch now. You know what I mean? So for somebody watching it who's new, like, it's like, oh, that ain't no big deal. But like, yo, when Wu-Wear first got started, like, Wu-Wear was the shit. Like, I remember people being like, yo, I gotta go out to Staten Island to go to the Wu-Wear store. Like, I'm sure it was like the same way, like when my aunt called me from Brooklyn, I spent every summer in Brooklyn. She was like, yo, Spike just opened the store around the corner. I'm like, oh, fuck that. I'm coming to Spike's store. It's like, I don't want to get an X hat from somewhere else. No, nigga, I want to buy it from Spike's store.
Right.
You know what I mean? And to me, it was the same thing with Wu-Wear. Like, you wanted to get some Wu-Wear from Staten Island. You wanted to go to the Wu-Wear store. So I thought it was dope of just like how you said Power and Divine had that business mind, to kind of be like, okay, this is what we got to do. And Power being smart enough to say, okay, well, I done seen you at all these shows, so you getting the merchandise out. So I actually can use you, you know what I mean? We can partner in this shit so it makes my load a little easier because, nigga, you already doing the leg work already. So I thought that shit was dope because people forget Wu Wear was crazy when that shit first popped off. Not to mention the Wu Wear song off the High School High soundtrack, which is very slept on Wu-Tang banger that I love that joint. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I thought what was most dope about the bootleg cat was the fact that he had Wu-Tang clothing for the ladies and they didn't.
Right.
So in a lot of ways, it was kind of smart to bring him on because it's like, oh, this cat thinking where we're not thinking yet. All these ladies out here, we not making sure they definitely gonna buy it, right? Because I ain't gonna front y'all. I ain't have Wu Wear nothing.
No, yeah, me neither. I didn't know Wu Wear, but the shit was dope. It just wasn't one. I'm not going to Staten Island. Like that's number one.
Right.
Two, but yeah, like the women, especially from that after the ice cream video, it was a wrap. Like, yo, everybody wanted the, Butter Pecan Rican shirts. Like that was just the staple right there. So yeah, that's a dope point. I didn't even think about that.
Yes, it's just, the show just keeps going and going, man. Now, what did you think about this? Because I totally forgot about it. The article that, according to RZA, took his words out of context. And back then, for y'all watching, he was literally shitting on the South, calling them slow and dumb and blah, blah, blah. But he says in the show that the writer took his words out of context. He was mostly talking about how his, was his uncle or his grandfather?
Grandfather. Right.
Yeah, that's how they looked at him.
Right.
As an entrepreneur, as being from the South and being dumb and slow. But what did you think about, do you remember like that?
I never even knew anything about that article. You know what I'm saying? So it was info to me, like, damn, I didn't even know. And see, back in those days, you couldn't say shit. It wouldn't go away for months. Like nowadays, like, with social media, you can fucking shoot Chris Brown and you trending for a day, and the next day we on to the next thing. Like niggas don't even remember it no more. But this was at a time when we only had print media and shit stuck. You know what I mean? For a minute. So I could only imagine how the South, took that shit like that. You know what I mean? Especially while they was going through South Carolina or whatever like that. You know what I mean? So. But so you heard about that story before?
I remembered it as soon as I saw it, but not like in detail to say, I remember when I read it.
Right.
I remember, I think, him defending it in another article.
Okay.
I was like, oh, he said that? Like, I didn't really know. So I never saw the article that came out, but I just remember him defending it later. But, I agree because I said the same exact thing when it was happening. I was like, if that would have happened, if a writer would have done that today, he could just go on Twitter and say that shit is bullshit. And
it's done.
But back then, to your point, he just had to hopefully go on stage and be like, yo, I didn't mean that shit. Right. Deal with the concept from state to state. Like,
it's so funny, bro, that we lived in those days when it's like my teens would be like, yo, Mr. Kill, how the fuck did you go to college without no internet? And I'm like, we just did. You know what I mean? Like, they can't even understand it. They're like, yo, you must be a real smart nigga, Mr. Kill, because how the fuck did you go to school with the internet? But to just think like we had to wait a month, to get a story that's by the time it goes to press already 3 weeks old. So we were never up on anything. You know what I mean? So even with the whole R. Kelly Aaliyah shit, it'd be like, oh, we gotta wait for the new Vibe to come out. And then by the time we get it, that story is already 3 weeks old. Know, where we are right now, where we get things like, I'm media takeout is my guilty pleasure. And I'm like, how the fuck do y'all get 20 new headlines every 24 hours? But every 24 hours, there are 20 new headlines of how do y'all find this stuff? And it's just amazing to me that we came up in that time where it was like, damn, we gotta wait for the source. or yo, we heard EPMD broke up. Like, okay, well, if they ain't on Rap City, Yo MTV Raps, like, yo, we gotta wait for the source, or we gotta wait. Now if somebody broke up, like, niggas would just be on Twitter right now, like, yo, this is what happened, and nigga Parrish and Eric Nine, this nigga got me robbed. Like, we didn't know what the fuck was going on, so it's just crazy that we lived in those times, bro. Like, that waiting time of just, we don't know what's going on, we just gotta wait for it.
Right.
So
it's like word of mouth and rumors, and if you trust your man and he told you, like, word, you have no real confirmation whatsoever. But to your point now, you'd be like, yo, they arguing on Clubhouse right now. Let's go.
Right, we can go see what the records is right now. Nigga, live right now. Let's tune in. Right. It's just crazy about those times, but bro, I miss it because I was saying to somebody, like, each record had a story. You know what I mean? Because you had a story of where you were when you brought Wu-Tang 36 Chambers. I remember getting my man Osei to drive me to Mon Diamond Mall. I think Wu and Midnight came out that day. So, you had stories behind the records that you brought. You know what I mean? I know the story of you buying the Chronic and being like, yo, I didn't even know this shit was out. Like, being at that time when you would just walk into a record store not even knowing, one of the most biggest hip hop albums ever is out, and we didn't even know. Like, I would walk into the record store and be like, "Oh shit, Heavy D got a new album out. Okay, let me buy that." Like, like, you didn't know. You just would just go into a record store periodically and be surprised. Where now everything Midnight, there is no story behind it. Like, this whole generation is never gonna have a story behind. When I heard Kendrick's, fucking To Pimp a Butterfly, it's gonna be like, yeah, I got on Apple Music. What'd you do? I got on Apple. Like, there's no other stories where it's like, yo, tell me a story. Like, so it's just so crazy that, like, during these times, we didn't have any way to defend ourselves. And you would have to find a reporter to want to interview you.
Yes.
To even say, this is what really happened. You know what I mean? Or you'd have to get a new, whereas now, like I said, you just, Tires Plus fuck up your car. I don't need no fucking, Channel 5 to come out. I'm going to just get on Twitter and just blast them,
Right.
So it's a totally different world, bro. Just a totally different world.
What's really quick? This, just to, reiterate or to add on to what you're saying, the same thing happened to me, and I was surprised with, like, my first Beats headphones.
Mm-hmm.
I had them joints on the wall in the gym a couple of times. It was relatively new. One day I went to put them on, and it just snapped, right? Mm-hmm. And I was so pissed because I got them on discount, but they were still expensive.
Oh, yeah.
So, I just went on Twitter. I was like, man, look at this shit. I didn't tag them or nothing. Look at this shit, man. I bought this joint. It's supposed to have some give. It just popped. Beats by Dre right in my DMs. Oh, we can send you a new pair. Just add that picture to this email, and we'll send it to you. And they did it, and I was like, damn. Off a tweet. Right. A tweet with no tagging whatsoever. They just happened to see it because I put Beats in my joint. So you're right, man. It was a totally different time. And I think for anybody watching who saw that, there was nothing RZA could do. He had to be on the bus and just eat that and just hope for any opportunity to say it's not true. Right. Which is crazy. All right, so they're on this bus. All these different things are happening, and the episode ends in somewhat of a tragic way with you guys in real life 2-year-old son being shot while he's on tour, and they're like in the middle of the South, and there's nothing he could do. Kill, when you saw the scene, obviously you guys talked about it. What did you think about what happened? How would you feel as a father? And how did you think the show, whether or not they did a good job in conveying the feeling of being a parent on tour, trying to do better for your kids, and you hear that your son has been shot?
Yeah. I think they did a great job. For me, it was just like that heartbreaking feeling of, again, because we know the story. So like I said, even in that first scene when he was talking to his son, it's like, yo, you're going to go to Disney World and da-da-da-da. I was like, oh shit, is this, when it happens or whatever. It's just heartbreaking. I think it's one of those hard parts that you're not thinking about when you want to be a rapper and you want to be on tour. That, like, God forbid, something could happen to somebody and you're in Europe or you're in Japan or you're far away. I loved how Powell was like, yo, like let's figure this out. Let's get you on a plane. Let's do whatever. But I definitely felt like even after that scene, like it was like you could see them being kind of like fucked up about it. Like, yo, that's crazy. And it's one of those situations where, I think the hard part, bro, is just with friendships over years, you don't know what to do, because I'm thinking, does you got want everybody to come back? Like, yo, fuck this tour. My son is more important. Like, I'm not going back by myself. Like, does he feel some kind of way that the tour went on, but he went home? Or, you know what I mean? I think it's one of those things where it's like, those are the hard parts that you have to kind of like think through. And I'm just wondering, how did that play out in real life? Did you guys feel some kind of way like, yo, fuck this tour? This bus need to go right back to New York. Fuck, why do I got to get off to find another bus or a train? Nigga, drive me back to New York right now. Fuck this tour. You know what I mean? And then, so I would love to know in real life what happened, because I definitely could see that planting the seed of resentment. Like, yo, y'all motherfuckers more concerned about this tour and this bullshit money than my son, y'all nephew or whatever. You know what I mean? So I thought they conveyed it good. I just now want to know. The great part I love about the show is now I'm like, what happened in real life? You know what I mean? Like, it's always the, okay, we embellish it for TV, but what happened in real life or whatever like that. So,
Yeah. For those wondering, his son did survive. He's a grown man now, which is excellent. But I agree, man. I knew, because, we've been watching the entire series, and I'm like, why they showing you God with his family?
Right.
It
felt like that was the pull on your heartstrings. Like, well, you going to Disney World? Like, yeah, I'm going to get you something from every, even when he was talking to the bus driver, like, yo, fuck that, if I ain't going, like, yo, take me down here so I can get some shit for my son. Like, it was building up, but, showing him trying to do good for his son. And it's like, the episode is like, God damn, your son got shot, and not knowing the extent of it, So you can imagine being in South Carolina, it's like 13 hours from New York, 14 hours from New York, and just that headspace of not knowing, what's going on with your son. And you from the hood, when you hear somebody get shot, you just probably think that they died. You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially a 2-year-old. It's like, nigga, 2-year-olds are so small. How the fuck do you survive a shoot? Right. So I can't even imagine what was going on in his head that ride back to NYC, man.
Yeah, I know it would have been difficult for me for anything. I mean, I don't know if I just would have walked off into the fucking countryside.
Yeah, now I think prayerfully I was a little dramatic, because nigga, you're not gonna walk nowhere. Like,
it's the South. Bring your ass back.
There's no train tracks nowhere around here, my nigga. I feel you, but
right. Like, relax. But nah, I agree, because when you think about it, man, they're all young, right? Most of their home situations are like kind of fucked up in one way or another,
right?
And unfortunately, in the hood, people don't know how to pass down dealing with grief and things of that nature. So it's difficult to console them. They don't know what to do. Right. They're thinking, okay, well, we got to keep the tour going, but we can get you home quicker by taking a plane, blah, blah, blah. Like Powell's trying to think of, he just knows he wants to get home as quick as possible. Right. So he's trying to think of ways. And for you guys, he just feels powerless,
right?
Because what am I going to do? Like, I can only talk on the phone, but so much if I can't be there for my child. Right. So I thought it was, I agree. I thought it was a great way to cap off the episode, to ground it a little bit more and bring it back to, these are real people, right, not just characters. So yeah, I thought overall it was a good episode. What you think?
Oh yeah, I thought the joint was perfect. My favorite part was just the argument. You know what I mean? Because again, it's just, again, take care. It's taking care of that business first. But again, they're kids. You know what I mean? Like, they're kids. It's like, do I know that I'm supposed to explain all this business shit to you? Or even I think it was the previous episode when you guy comes in, he's like, nigga, what's this health insurance? What's that? What's this or what's that? Like, why my check look like this? Like, nigga, I'm good with no health insurance. I ain't never had no fucking health insurance, Like, give me that money back, So, again, I do feel like, and even watching with the Mikes and Men, the Showtime joint, just being able to, like, what is the extent that you're supposed to explain the business to your brothers?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I remember in that joint when Cap was like, yo, I came home to $250K, but nobody told me this shit wasn't a welcome home present, that it was an advance that had to get paid back. Like, so it's like little things like that. Or was it told to you and you just didn't listen? Like, so I think that that's the hard part. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying about the executive bus and the artist bus. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where, I just think because of all this, it's always made me want to educate people who I do business with who may not know the business, because I never want you to say Kill did this or we trusted in you, Kill. Like, nah, nigga, I want you to have just as much insight and understanding into the decisions that we make. So, you don't end up with everybody in the clan hating RZA and this, fuck RZA. And, it seems like everybody's had a fuck RZA moment throughout their career. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's kind of like,
yeah, when you think about it, he was like the middleman for a lot of it. He was like the liaison, right? Like, they'll listen to me, but I gotta listen to my brother also.
Right.
And
it is the liaison without consulting. So you sign and do. How you gonna sign somebody to a lecturer and not even talk to them about it? Like, I feel you got their best interest at hand. You know what I mean? And it could be like, yo, y'all know Dirty. This nigga, he ain't right in the head. But it's like, nigga, I at least got to run this shit past you. I don't even know, how can you sign somebody to another label? Like, Vegas, I should not be able to sign you to whatever label I want. Is that part? Because I know one thing they said in the joint, the interview when I wrote this down, that RZA made you sign a 5-year contract where he has control over your career. Like, that was something that stood out to me. He asked one of them that question. So I'm like, is that how? Like, does he have contracts on them where he has control over your career for 5 years?
Yeah, remember when they signed the Wu-Tang Productions contracts? It was all in there. Right?
Yes, I just didn't know it was like I've got control of your, like, so basically RZA can do whatever he wants with them.
Yeah, but you know what I think it was? I think there was just trust there, and I think they were making good on that trust.
Right.
Until they made a decision that you didn't like, and then that's when it's like, well, the paperwork says,
right,
this is in your best interest. And remember, even in the future, it makes sense why Dirty went and signed that Rockefeller deal without talking to them.
Right.
Because now he was free of them, and he could do it himself. And and you know what? There's I don't remember what it was. It's like a documentary when Old Dirty came home from jail and he signed the jail and rehab. He signed the Rockefeller joint. Remember he was mad thick, and RZA showed up, right? And you could see it. You could see their relationship where they're cousins, so it was still there, but you could see it on RZA's face that he felt kind of bad because he just wished they would have talked. He just don't want them to beef. But Old Dirty looked sad that he got to do it to his family. So it was, again, with them, you could tell, even if they were raised by a single parent or whatever, they were family. Yeah. It's how they behave with one another. It's just unfortunate that, like you said, money gets in the way. Look, y'all, if Arrested Development can have the same damn issues. I remember watching that Unsung, and I was like, what? Like,
yo, here's the funny part about Arrested Development. Outside his speech and that old man, and I don't even think his name was Mr. Wendell, because that was the name of the song. I can't name nobody else in Arrested Development. It's speech in them. It's just speech in them. So I don't know how in them had any fucking problem, because did they do anything?
That's the thing. Sometimes it's hard to tell, because they could have, but it wasn't on paper. So. Yeah,
I remember the chick in Everyday People. She would repeat shit and kind of scream and yell, but I don't know, like, does that give you half of the budget too? You know what I mean? So I think one of the craziest things and dopest things I ever heard was when Primo was like, yo, when we signed our deal, Google was like, yo, you're going to have to do something else besides DJ. Like, because if you want to get half this record deal, you're going to have to carry half the weight. You know what I mean? And it was like, that's what made Primo start producing. But again, Google was like a grown ass man. Like we forget, Google was like fucking 32 in words I manifest. So, Google was a grown ass man. Like this nigga got his frontal lobe for him. The rest of these niggas like tip like 16 signing record contracts. So for Guru to have that, that business sense to say like, dog, I'll pay you for the tour dates, but that don't mean you get half of this money if all you doing is DJing. No, you gotta. What are you gonna do to carry your weight? And it's that's just dope. Like how okay, well shit, let me start fucking with the beats, then so I can sign half this deal.
Yeah, man. Again, it's just a testament to this series and the attention to detail and like Kill mentioned earlier, you can look at all the biopics or biopics that were released where we can nitpick certain things about the story. We may nitpick certain things about performances, right? But as far as the story, I mean, whether it's true or not, it's leaving us satisfied, and it's hitting the things that we do remember almost to a T. Last thing before we get out of here, man, because I gotta ask you, you're a producer, and the whole 4 episodes since last season, Kill, that Inspector Deck album, man. Do you cringe when you think of the fact that one wasn't saved?
Yeah, it's one of those things. We did an episode of Apartment 5B where we talked about albums that hip hop owed us. Like, we were owed that Deck album from 95, 96. Like, we were owed that album. And, again, Porsche makes fun of RZA like, is this nigga fucking Aquaman or Namor? Like, how the fuck do you get a leak from the basement? Then you get an apartment, the water come from the ceiling. Like, how do you get 2 floods, nigga? Like, what did you do in life to just, deal with that? And it's kind of just like, I feel like that's the fucked up part, that we just never got Deck's work when the Clan was the Clan. Because I feel like everything before Wu-Tang Forever was like on some real brotherhood. We want to be in the studio with each other. We love this shit. Once you get on, then the studio becomes a pain in the ass because you smashing shorties and you at this club and you at that party. Veg, how it was back in the day. You tell me there's studio time. I don't care if I was about to get some ass, shorty. We got to wait. I got to go to the studio. Like, studio trumped everything. Like, I don't care what was going on. It was like, we got to get to the studio. So, it's kind of like, I just felt like that Deck album would have been everybody being in there. Everybody wanting to make the album so dope, the same way we had with Jizza and the Purple Tape and everybody else. And so it's just heartbreaking to know that we never got that from Deck. And I'm one of the people who I still don't understand the floods. So did Takal get fucked up by the flood? And was it the reason because I've heard, Kill Takal wasn't what we thought it was going to be because RZA had to redo all the beats. But I'm like, nigga, I thought the flood came after. So I don't even know. According to the show, the flood was before Takal, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before the release. Yeah, they at least on the show, they played it up as if everything was in jeopardy. And he was able to save and salvage certain joints. That's why we got him. But Inspector Deck's whole album was damaged to the point where they couldn't even save it.
So do we know if the beats for the Purple Tape and Liquid Swords were those old beats, or is this post flood that he had to make all those beats? So
apparently, maybe not all of it, but apparently, I remember hearing this before that a lot of this shit was being made at the same time.
Okay.
So some things existed, some things haven't. I think with Raekwon, at least according to the show, he may have had like one joint in mind or a couple, but the Purple Tape, as we know it, wasn't that. So some of that shit was after the fact. Okay. I think the problem, not the problem, but the thing that stood out to me the most is that the Inspector Deck shit seems to be consistent because it was like Deck was working.
Right.
So Deck was
Deck's supposed to come out before. Like, where was Deck's order? Like, it was Takal, Old Dirty, then was it supposed to be Deck next?
I think so, because I think Deck was on a lot of the hits, like he said on the bus. He was on, he was on Cream. So he was prime in position, he would have been. It would have made sense for him to have another dope album, like you said, to that point amongst those albums that we all consider classics.
Right.
But it's like, who knows at this point? Because he didn't have a deal. Remember?
Because he ended up is on Loud, right?
Who's that?
Uncontrolled Substances is on Loud, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think in the show they were saying how he didn't have a solo deal, but I think they were going to use the album,
right?
Kind of say this is Deck by himself. This is what he does by himself, which is so terrible because this man has some of the best feature verses of all time, and we didn't get that prime Wu-Tang, prime RZA Deck album. On the last episode, I told Jay, I was like, nigga, if they make a DeLorean that could go back in time,
we gotta go back in time and save. We gotta save.
There's a house, like, hey, nigga, just you don't know us, bro. Just let us get this shit for you, like,
right.
Or let us copy this shit in the future,
right. Yo, the crazy thing is, man, is I'm like, if RZA, because I know people who have RZA top 5 producers ever, and I'm like, yo, just imagine if the flood never happened.
Yeah.
If Takao was supposed to be what Takao was, and if we got the Deck album. Like, if you got him in his top 5, if you make that, those two changes, like, I could easily see him being if somebody saying he's number 1, because the run RZA went on was crazy. You know what I mean? So yeah, just if you add those asterisks to those albums and keep it moving. I just want to know where it fell apart, and I know we're probably not going to get to that during this series. And what I mean by fell apart is, when did the RZA stop making dope ass beats? Like, somewhere along the line, that nigga stopped. He got that MV80 rolling machine, and I don't know what the fuck, but that nigga stopped making shit that we fucked with. You know what I mean? Or would only make it here and there. Like, he'd make a run, but it'd be one song, and we used to the RZA making all these joints. I wouldn't know what happened with that nigga. Like, nigga, where did you fall the fuck off? Because, nigga, you did. Like,
I did a whole episode a while ago on the Wu-Tang Clan as a group not being as dope as you think, because when you look at their catalog, there's really only 2 albums that are like just complete fire, and the rest are like, there's maybe Iron Flag. I like Iron Flag a little bit more than the rest.
Right.
But the W, Better Tomorrow, 8 Diagrams, these shits are like garbage. Like, they're not just, it's not his best work. No, they're like garbage.
Yeah.
But once I heard Gravel Pit, son, I checked out. I was like, this nigga done made a Flintstones theme? Like, what is this?
It's crazy, man. Young Guru once said, man, I can explain life through Jay-Z and Wire quotes. And I almost find myself doing that shit, because I was going to say, had a spark in the, but now you just garbage.
Right, it had a spark when it started, but now
it's just garbage. And it's just like, but again, bro, I think once all the trust issues fall, there's just, to me, is something beautiful about when everybody wants to be in the studio and everybody wants to help each other. And it's like, yo, let me help you. I remember RZA talking about that with Making Forever, and he was like, yo, we had to go to Cali because there was too many distractions in New York. You know, niggas would come to the studio, get a page, and then just leave. And they'd be like, yo, where the fuck? Like, nah, nigga, let's all get together. We going to Cali. We don't nobody fucking know nobody. We gonna record the album. Similar to Big, you know, Puff taking all them niggas to an island. Like, yo, we doing Life After Death over here because we focused. You know what I mean? And I just think after Wu-Tang and Forever, and then you got, you know, Immobility, and, you know, it just never, you know, it just never got back to the way that it was, you know. But again, it could be because of all the seeds that were planted, you know, and all these Wu albums is just not making the shit any better. And you could tell niggas' hearts weren't in it, you know, because then they go do a solo album, go do a Fish Scale, that'd be crazy, but then come over here and it's a blah, you know, Wu album or a blah Wu verse, because it's like, are they doing this just because we got the contract and we gotta, you know, fulfill this contract or whatever? Or so it, but it's sad, bro. It really is sad to see, you know, like you said, the whole discography is not really what, you know, you would.
Yeah. Well, I will say this before we end. It would only be right for the Wu to drop an album at the end of this season. 50 years of hip hop, final season of a series that most people like, and it could be done right. And I mean, the last Wu project, I will say that was to me done right. RZA didn't produce it; it was Mathematics, and you know that's kind of sad because Mathematics got the beats where we was like, yeah, this feels like the Wu,
right?
And the performances, to your point, felt like, oh, they're into it. So hopefully,
two things on that note. One, I said this about Nas's King Disease 3 before I knew that that's what it was going to be. I was like, yo, he's on tour with the Wu, you know, being around that energy, you know what I mean? This really may be able to make something really special, you know what I mean? Because I know for a lot of MCs, it's about the people you with, like the ciphers, you know, like you finished sharp, I'm sure, when you was around other MCs, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, I'm like, Nas is going to be on tour with the Wu. This, if Nas do another album, it could be kind of crazy. We got King's Disease 3. So to your point, it would be crazy if they were working on something, you know, they were inspired to work on something while they were on tour. Now, my question for you is, can it be a Wu-Tang album if RZA doesn't produce it?
I don't think so, man. Because even though I generally like the joint with Mathematics, I mean, it gotta be RZA. Like it's like the same thing with Little Brother. I like their last album, but I'm like, but it's not without Ninth.
Right.
It's not the magic that we liked about the album, even if the beats are duplicated. Now, if you told me Dilla did the whole joint, I'd be like, okay, well, that nigga does RZA better than RZA. Like,
right. Because that Lion Daggers joint, I knew that was RZA. You know what I mean?
Right. You couldn't have told me anything different.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I was just wondering that because some people say yeah, but I'm like, yo, I don't know, man. Like even when Cypress dropped their new album, it was like produced by Black Milk. I'm like, that ain't no Cypress album. Like Cypress is produced by Muggs. Like you can't do a Pete CL album and Pete ain't do the beats. Like
right.
Like Avon said, that ain't how the game is played. This is what I mean. I could really just explain life through Jay-Z and Wyatt lyrics. Like, nigga, that's not the way the game is played. Like, yo, it's got to be RZA on the beats. You know what I mean? But, you know, let me do this real quick, man. I just got to give a Polo shout out because I love when they do this, man. First Polo sighting, Divine's girl had on a nice white and blue button-up joint with the blue horse right over there. RZA had the blue and white Polo Sport sweatshirt, which I love at that time. Polo Sport, for people who don't know, Polo goes through different seasons. So right here, 93, 94, Polo Sport was the shit. Jizza had on a black and white Polo Sport jacket. Ray had the ill red Polo USA sweatshirt, one of my favorite joints. Those had the blue Polo Sport hat, and Ray then had the red and yellow USA sweatshirt, which was dope. So those are just the Polo sightings, you know, that I got because I really love, if people don't know, the Snow Beach piece, I mean, an OG Snow Beach piece could go for, I've seen them go for $2,300. You know what I mean? And it's all because of Ray. It's all because of, you know, Ray sporting it because it's like, it's literally known as the Ray piece almost. Like, it's like Snow Beach, you mean the Ray piece. So, you know, I love the fact that they're sticking to the fashion topic of it also with it and everything.
Yeah, they've been on point with the fashion from the times. I will say that. Yeah, for sure.
And something else I did really fuck about the show when they would talk about where they were and how they would display it. Like for day 3, it was like with the weed and it was like blunts that said like, and then the cigarette said Baltimore, you know, and on day 4 was a billboard that said Virginia Beach. And then day 8 on the tour bus, it was graffiti that said Durham, North Carolina. And then day 10 on the TV, it was like Raleigh, North Carolina. And then day 11 on a parking lot sign, it was like Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. So I did like how they like freaked it to let you know like this is where they at. And they did it different ways too. I thought that
right. Yeah, it's just a show where you could tell they don't just do the thing. All right, it's done, it's edited, it's done, get it out of here. They add different flavors, Easter eggs, like you said. At no point did they point out all the low.
Right.
But they know that the people who know is going to peep it and be like, oh shit, we got on the, you know what I'm saying? So I think in a lot of ways, you know, they just continue to do an excellent job.
They definitely pay attention to detail. Like the detail is there. You know what I mean? So yeah.
All right. Well, what did you think about this episode 4 of Wu-Tang and American Saga? Did you like it? How did you feel about the whole tour bus thing? Are you from the South and you read that article and you was like, yo, what the fuck? I like the RZA and Wu. Leave your comments in the comment section below. I'd like to thank my guest, Kill889. Check out him every week. You can check out the whole catalog, honestly, on YouTube of Apartment 5B podcast, talking hip hop, nostalgia, new things, reviews, flowers for some of your favorite MCs of all time. Dope show. Just gonna let y'all know when I got the hoodie on, especially if I put it on my head on the show. Sometimes I act a little crazy. I'm just gonna
It's a wrap. You know how you got Hoodie Mellow, you got Hoodie Vegas.
Right. Sometimes I get a little crazy.
Hoodie Mellow was putting in buckets that summer. Hoodie Mellow was dangerous. So
he was.
That's Hoodie Vegas, right?
All right, y'all. Kill, tell them where they can follow you.
Twitter, Kill889, Twitter, IG, always starting shit, not trying to start shit, literally just say my opinions and people take them and run with them. So, having a great discussion right now about cross note, we talked about that too.
All right, and you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at VegasWorldINC, and know that this podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch it on YouTube, or you can go to your favorite podcasting app, type in the words Hip Hop Now Podcast, subscribe, and stay locked in to hip hop content like this from hip hop fans. So until next time, y'all, we're not critics, we're fans. Peace.
All right.